saying these words. Okay, so just making sure. You got it. All right. I want to say thank you, everyone, for being here. But unfortunately, this is not a good circumstances, but everyone's time is valuable. So thank y'all for making that effort to come here to this district, to this community that is in a state of crisis and trauma. My name is Assemblywoman Monique Chandler Waterman, and we are here today because we had yet another mass shooting in our neighborhood. 4 people shot. Unfortunately, 1 did not survive. We want to make sure that when things like this happen, we don't want to be praying about it. We want resources to come to our community. So today I'm going to introduce a legislation that's going to have that definition of what is a mass shooting when it comes to the Black and brown community. So we are going to discuss that today. But before I start, I want to make sure that we start off on a good note with prayer, because we all need prayer, don't we? Yes. All right. So right now we're going to have our Bishop Riley, that's part of my 7th District 58 Faithfulness Task Force, who is going to start off with prayer the right way.
Shall we? So Lord, here we are one more time. We're coming because you gave us the invitation to come, and we come boldly before you. We thank you for this day. We will glorify you, we will magnify you. Thank you for it. Thank you for all of us gathered here today on earth. Thank you for the leadership that we have today. Thank you for the agreement that we have, that if all of us can come together at such a time as this, you will move. You made it clear your people calling upon your name, your people turning away from our sins, things will be changed. Here we are to make plans. We ask you then to direct us. Please, Lord, tell us what to do and give us the obedience that we will do that. And we are anticipating the success that you promised. It shall be well. Yea, Lord, it is well, because you are still with us. Have your own sweet divine way. Help us that we are not just hearers of the word, but doers also. Bless us again, we pray, and we'll make you one promise. We will come back and we will give your name the peace that is due to you, the honor and the glory. It shall be done in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Bishop. Thank you very much. And I'm going to go into talk about why we're here, what's been happening in this area. Once again, I'm Assemblywoman Monique Chandler Waterman. I represent 58 and 7th District, which of course includes this area right here, East Flatbush. I was born and raised right around the corner of 46 Church in Snyder. I cover parts of Canarsie, Crown Heights, and Brownsville. So I'd like to pray for healing for my community, my neighbors, my family, and all communities that live under constant threat and trauma of gun violence. I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. As I said before, the thank yous to Public Advocate Jamani Williams, who will be speaking, our Council Member Farrah Lewis, our New York City Gun Czar, A.T. Mitchell, representative from the Office of Borough President, and also from Congressmember Clark and Mayor's Office. I'm sure there's more, Community Board 17 as well. So, but I have to pause and say a special thank you to the members of the Assembly District 58 Public Safety Task Force. When I took office, I started this task force, but as some of you may know, for over 20 years, I've been fighting and advocating to reduce gun violence. But what does that translate to from being on the streets as a community advocate to being a legislator in action and be able to have a different view on how we can make changes that our community-based organizations keep on running circles trying to just get funded? So I want to thank our anti-violence groups that's part of this task force, God Squad, EFB, BTTM, Drum, and Kavi, that have multiple meetings and given their time and their energy away from their family and community time with no real funding to do this the way they need to do it when they can be spending time with their family. They have been our eyes and ears and conscience because they truly know the streets and have lived experiences with public safety challenges we face. This country's obsession with guns and the government failure to put gun control laws and real resources in place have created a public health crisis. We are standing steps away from the site of a mass shooting. I'm going to say this is called a mass shooting, not just multiple shootings. Any shooting is too much. But this is a mass shooting that we had on Saturday that left 3 people injured, and one I believe still in critical, and 39-year-old Emmanuel Saray dead. When I spoke to his family, who would not be here today for obvious reasons, it's very hard, I learned about Emmanuel. He was an amazing father of 5 beautiful children, taking them to school every day, as any father would do. He was a school bus driver, transporting our community kids safely to and from school. He came from a big, loving family. And he loved his Haitian food. Emmanuel could have been your son, your uncle, your brother, or your neighbor. We need to remember humanity, love, and unity. All we have is one another. Some people want to talk about why, where, what happened. Someone was shot. Someone was murdered. A human being. That's it. Our prayers go out to Emmanuel and the 3 victims, their family, and the community. Is that our pastor, Terry Lee? We'll give a moment, right? You have to turn it down.
Stop it. He's getting out.
All right.
Oh no, it's not over yet.
All right, thank you. And at this moment, I want to honor Emmanuel by having a moment of silence. Let's please have a moment of silence for Mr. Emmanuel that was unfortunately murdered on Saturday. We can't change what happened this past week, but we have to impact what happens tomorrow, and it starts today by addressing this gun violence trend. Until gun-loving members, or just until people who think guns is the answer, our federal government, we need to take care of its citizens. We need to take care of ourselves. Today I announced I have introduced legislation that defines mass shooting in New York State. Until now, there was no formal definition in our state. 4 or more being shot. I would say 3 or more. As soon as you have any individual multiple, that's a mass shooting. And by defining and designating an incident as a mass shooting, we can trigger accesses to programs including emergency relief, crisis response, mental training, and technical assistance, job security, job creation, and so much more to benefit the victims and communities that's affected by mass violence. And we need to not think about what is a mass shooting or what is it called. We need to have those resources. Time and time again in the Black and brown community, we always begging for resources. We should have to beg to be termed a mass shooting. When it happens in any affluent community that already have resources, they get more resources on top of that. We're demanding for resources for our community, not another child. People impacted by mass shootings are impacted long after the reporters, I thank you for being here, but long after the reporters and cameras leave. People are still dealing with the trauma. And the community is dealing with it. The victims and communities, mental health, trauma, and for here. And culturally relevance. We have mothers here doing this work for free after they lost their loved ones. They know the community. We don't need somebody from outside the community to tell us what to do in our community. We know. So we want to make sure we get assistance with medical, rehabilitation, expenses, child care, dependent care, lost wages. We need affordable housing. The trigger is pulled, as our sister Clean, who always says, the trigger is pulled before the trigger is physically pulled. And that's when we don't have resources. So we need ongoing support, especially for victims during criminal justice proceedings. This is a precinct with one of the highest rates of gun violence in our city. This incident was one of far too many, including right here. 9-year-old Andrew Collins was shot by riding his bike right here. He survived. That's not everybody's case. And that at that time triggered us to come out, the whole community, East Rockbridge Village Inc. at the time that I was a part of, and we came out with a press conference with the family. And then again, around the corner, 46 Church of Snyder, 3 to 4 people were shot years ago. That was a mass shooting then as well. And I remember doing Stop the Bleed physically on the ground with those young men. Utica Avenue between Church and Snyder a couple of years ago, a shooting left 52 bullet casings on the ground on our street. You know how much shooting has to happen for 52 cases to be left on the ground? Thank God no one was shot. But that's crazy. During the height of the pandemic, there was approximately between, I'll say 45th or 46, all around here, especially on Snyder, and about 20 shootings in the wake of the pandemic. And as we know, it was already happening and the pandemic exacerbated those situations. Not all of them resulted in injuries, but it's still gun violence. I just want to hear because a shooting happened and no one got shot, it doesn't mean anything. It means a lot. Then you go down to 56 in Church, a young man was murdered. We just did a funeral for that. Then 12-year-old Cade Lewis was murdered right there off of Church Avenue. I don't have to continue giving examples. One is too many. So I continue sending condolences and lift the families in prayer. But tell you truth, I'm tired. I'm tired of asking my community to join me in prayer. Prayer without works is dead. God didn't say just go and continue praying. No, we got to be about it. He's an OG too, right, Bishop? God is an OG. He was out in these streets. Yeah. And while we pray, we got to demand. We're not asking for permission. Please get resources. Kick down the door. We need resources. Yeah. So, as I go on script, the government should join us to create affordable housing, job training, as we talked the wraparound service, creation of jobs, mental health services, and funding for our schools. I would like to work with my colleagues in government on the federal, state, city to declare this a mass shooting, to get the resources we need out into our community to ensure our well-being and safety of our streets. After 34 days, I don't know how much days we ever had with those shootings, but after 34 days of gun violence, we are dealing with a mass shooting at our doorstep. We don't need to wait anymore. One survey told us 120 guns for every 100 Americans. The United States is the only nation with more civilian guns than people. Through international unintentional acts, intentional and unintentional acts, people are losing their lives. It must stop. It's not just giving lip service to the Assembly District 58 Task Force, Public Safety Task Force, and everyone standing here is taking action to end gun violence. We need we need not just to talk about it. We got to do the work. So please join me and join us in this action. There have been more than 100 mass shootings in the United States. So the United States thus far. This is crazy. This has to end. So without further ado, if anybody know me, I start off with our mothers. Natasha, you know that was coming. I don't know why you didn't. So we have our president, right? Natasha Christopher, unfortunately, son who was murdered due to gun violence. Akil Christopher, she will come and speak about Mothers for Safe City. That's also part of God's Squad. Natasha Christopher, can you please come today with all the mothers in support?
Good morning. My name is Natasha Christopher. I'm a mother who lost her 14-year-old son, Akil Christopher, to senseless gun violence. I'm also a part of a group called Mothers for Safe City. I am standing here with these mothers. This is Jessica James. She lost her son, Storm Hughes, to gun violence. And this is Pamela Hyde. She lost 2 children to gun violence. We are sick of thoughts and prayers. Pastor, you know I love you. But we are sick of thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers are not going to bring back our children. We need the guns to be put down. We need our community to come together and say enough is enough. I am sick and tired of standing up, doing press conference for people that are losing their children. I don't want nobody else to become part of this club. This is what trauma looks like. We are standing here tall, but there is not a day that goes by that I don't miss my son. There is not a day that goes by that Jessica don't miss her son, especially Pam, who lost 2 children. And again, we are sick and tired of thoughts and prayers. We need our young black men to get their acts together and put these guns down, because you all are better than this. We are losing our children to gun violence more than car accidents. So we need to do better. Thank you.
I always admire the strength of these mothers and these families who lose someone, well, we should say murdered by gun violence, and then come out and advocate to make sure nobody else goes through that experience. That's one group no one wants to be a part of. But I thank God that you do have a group to get support for our families. So I'm going to call Pastor Hines from God Squad. He's also part of the God Squad, and Mother State City is part of the Semi-District 58 Public Safety Task Force. All right, Pastor Hines.
Thank you and good morning, everybody. His name is Emmanuel Soray.
Amen.
Say his name.
Emmanuel Soray.
Say his name.
Emmanuel Soray.
Say his name.
Emmanuel Soray.
We meet here this morning in the wake of a mass shooting that took place on East 54th and Church Avenue, Snyder Avenue, 45th and Church Avenue. This is indeed personal because 3 blocks from the shooting is where I live. 3 blocks from the shooting is where my house of worship is. This has to stop. We offer our condolences to the families, the family of Emmanuel, who at this time we are working with, unfortunately, to plan a funeral service for a 39-year-old young man who was in the prime of his life, who had beautiful children in high school and middle school with hopes and dreams, whose dreams are now shattered because their dad is no longer with them. And we have to work with them. We work with 75 mothers, 75 families, now 76, who have gone through and are dealing with the tragic loss of their children to gun violence. And as faith leaders, we amplify our voices. We lift our voices in the community because as the moral conscience of our society, and as those who are tasked with the responsibility of shepherding our communities, we want to ensure that the resources come down to our communities. We are praying for our communities. But even after we pray and we say amen, we pray with our feet. We are out there in the days, in the weeks, doing clergy walks, meeting with community, talk with them not at 2, 3, 4 p.m., but 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 midnight. We're out there on the streets. Why? Because these are our streets. These are our streets. And we have to claim back our streets. We claim back our young people. Even as we work with 25 just involved youth and over 80 young people in our youth programs right now that we are preparing to graduate in another 2 weeks. But this has to stop. The violence has to stop. And it takes a united, collaborative effort of what we call all hands on deck approach to reduce this pandemic that is plaguing our societies. We should be out here celebrating young men and young women who are making strides in their community. We should not be out here lamenting and wailing because of the loss of a young man and the shooting of 3 other victims. Thank God they have survived. But one funeral is too many. One funeral is too many, and we have to put in our resources. As faith leaders, we are working very hard on the streets, and we work with electives, we work with community-based organizations. It takes all hands on deck. And we have to pull all resources, put all minds and hearts together for one cause, and that is to improve our communities. We believe that there are no bad or good neighborhoods. What we have is holy ground. And we expect that a community should not be named bad or good because of violence according to the zip code. That whatever zip codes we are a part of, this is a healthy community. And we want the healing to begin. We want the healing to continue, and we want the healing to rise. We believe that it can be done, it will be done, and it must be done. Thank you very much. And I must declare that it was, unfortunately, a horrific, horrendous mass shooting that took place in our community here in East Flatbush.
So can you just state your full name, please, and spell it?
Pastor Edward, it's E-D-W-A-R-D, last name H-I-N-D-S.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that as well. We don't have good and bad neighborhoods, but we have the have and have-nots. So when we don't have resources, they determine what's good or bad by lack of resources. So we have the have and have-nots, and unfortunately, we are the have-nots, but not after today. We need to have. All right, so next we'll call EFV, Eric Waterman, to come to the mic.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Eric Waterman. I am the co-founder and executive director of East Flatbush Village Youth and Community Development Organization. We stand here, of course, in mourning, but we also stand here united. And I want to just thank everybody who's here in our community. East Flatbush Village was founded and began literally a stone's throw away on East 46th Street between Churches Snyder, literally half a block away. And we formed this organization because our youth needed mentors, needed the mentors that we either had or that we needed in our community. And we've continued to do that. Unfortunately, a shooting took place not far from here, a mass shooting. What we need is mass resources on a regular basis, not when there's a shooting, not after an incident. We actually need resources beforehand. We need preventative services. We were able to walk this neighborhood with youth. I say that again. We were able to walk these blocks with youth to be able to inform neighbors of an incident that took place that they weren't even aware. Now, some people would say, great, they didn't have to worry that they were being harmed, but this is the kind of thing that's taking place in their neighborhood, in their backyard, and they're unaware of it. That means you can't do anything about it. That means you can't ask for resources if you're unaware of it. That means you don't know where to go to be able to get support if you're unaware of it. And so we are here today to, one, thank everybody for being here, but when we call for youth action on the positive, uplifting, regular activities that kids are doing. Not far from here at PS 135, we have an after-school program that houses 110 students. We need more than 110 students. Those same kids live in these same neighborhoods, in these houses, in these buildings. We can prevent gun violence with working with those same youth every single day through our program with proper resources. I say that the program is funded and it's underfunded. There are so many other programs in this community that are underfunded. And on top of that, our community is traumatized as a result of these mass shootings. They happen and we get normalized by it. We keep moving. And instead of sticking around and going, you know what, this is not right. This is not the way it should be. Calling it out and providing resources behind it. So I ask for that. And I can thank everybody who's here to support our community that's reeling. But I ask for support the community before it has to reel over an incident like this. So thank you for coming out, but let's be out here and let's be present for one another and for the community members and our youth on a regular daily basis through programming, through initiatives, through when you see them on the bus, when you're at the bus stop, to when you see them in a program, they should be right now being mentored by the media for those that want to get involved in media development. Every inch of industry that we have throughout the country, every youth should be able to be mentored or paired or somehow linked to an organization that's getting development in that particular area of study. But that's not happening. Our resources are only going towards, I've seen so many vehicles after the mass shooting, so many vehicles out there, police vehicles. I love the police. I love them. I know a lot of them. I coached for 15 years, and I coached many kids that ended up becoming NYPD, FDNY. They became city workers. It doesn't matter what field they went in. So I love them. But that's not necessarily the resources that we need to make sure we get out of this epidemic. So we need everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I also want to acknowledge they had young people with them standing here today. So I want BTTM, drum, Cyrus Smith, coming to the mic to speak. Reverend Shannon. Okay, Reverend Shannon, also part of Assembly District 58 Public Safety Task Force. Then it will be Kavi to come up next, so get yourself ready. Kavi.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. As already stated, I am Reverend Shannon. I am one of the program managers for Brownsville Think Tank Matters, which is the parent company for Drum. On the streets, you will mostly see the Drum logo, which stands for Developing Righteous United Movements. I stand with our COO, Cyrus Smith, and also in representation of our founder and CEO, Al Matthew. We are here under the hub of the Mobile Trauma Unit, which is a mobile trauma unit that was assigned to Brownsville Think Tank Matters as a mobile trauma unit for the borough of Brooklyn. We're not limited and relegated to one particular area, but we have been assigned to the borough of Brooklyn by way of the mobile trauma unit. That primary service is to offer grief recovery counseling to those who have been victimized by gun violence. The pain and the reality of loss is real, and we want to be able to support those families who have lost loved ones to gun violence. I'm also a grief recovery specialist, and in being a grief recovery specialist, I formulated a grief healing mantra, which simply states, I am on a healing journey, moving towards learning how to live inside my grief. We have to learn how to live inside of this reality, because I've watched people suffer inside of it. I've watched people die inside of grief. The goal is to help people to learn how to live inside of this reality. So to the families who are here mourning the deaths of their loved ones, we are here to support you. To the family of Emmanuel Sore, who lost his life in this recent mass shooting, we are here to support you. History that hurts also offers history that heals. And we are on the heels of a history, recent history, that has hurt this community and continues to hurt our communities abroad. And so we are also here to offer solutions that will create a history that heals. I want to offer my brother and founder and CEO his statements. He could not be here with us today, but I want to share his thoughts with you, and I want you to know that I echo these sentiments. Al Matthew says, we should avoid being a community that points fingers at one another. When turning on the news, we hear about shootings at schools, near schools, parks, and subways. We should encourage mindfulness, being mindful that those victimizing our communities are human beings with their own unique set of challenges, struggles, and experiences, who either haven't learned or been taught other ways to express themselves outside of violence. Violence is not normal, but we have to ask, why has it been normalized as the most dominant form of conflict resolution? Where has compassion gone for our fellow neighbors? Where are our leaders willing to step out other than organizations and inspire the young men today? These are our communities suffering. This
is a deep hole for our young men to dig themselves out of. They have been misled and misguided and are in need of the leadership that teaches them how to handle their emotions and difficult situations. So together, let's lead with guidance that breathes life into purpose. This is a quote from our founder and CEO, Al Matthew. And I close in saying this. This is Women's History Month. And I take every opportunity to celebrate the beautiful and powerful women that are in the forefront of leadership. So I want to thank Assemblywoman Monique Waterman. I want to thank Councilwoman Farrah Lewis. I want to thank all the powerful sisters who are in the forefront of leading this charge. But there is a sister that I listen to every day on Sirius XM, The Urban View, Laree Daniel Favors. And she closes her show out every day with this. She says, find your purpose and see how it aligns with the needs of our people and walk in it with your back straight. And then she says, tap into your Harriet Tubman, Marcus Garvey, Nat Turner love. And that is the love, Harriet Tubman, the love that teaches us more than we were taught not to. Marcus Garvey, to open up and create paths of resources for our people. And Nat Turner, to stand and to protect the sanctity and dignity of our people. I love that quote because it gives us marching orders. And so I thank you all for the opportunity and the privilege to share today. But let's pull together. I don't like cameras, if I have to say that. I have to say, I don't like cameras. My preference is to be out in the streets doing the work. I don't like photo ops. That's not my, most of y'all have probably never seen me before because I choose not. But if I have to stand, I will stand. I'm equipped to stand, and I am enough to stand. God bless you.
Copy.
Yes, so we're going to call Copy. Before I say that, I'm going to embarrass Reverend Shannon a little bit. I was a fortunate person. Well, I didn't have my dad growing up, but guess who stepped in? People like Reverend Shannon, I could say, was with me in my teens, mentoring me and counseling my family. So I want to give it up to him as well. And I also got to give a shout out to Sean Walsh for What's Up Media. He also, in my teens, was a mentor that people don't know to help reduce gun violence by having activities for youth that we had every Sunday. We had a safe space to go and have parties on a Sunday because of this man and his colleagues. So, Kavi, if you could please come on up from Ramik.
Yes, thank you, Assemblywoman, for your leadership. Thank you for all that you do for the community. Kavi Kings Against Violence Initiative is a community-based youth development organization that works with young people in Kings County, all people in Kings County Hospital that have been impacted by violence-induced injuries, gunshot wounds, stabbings, and assaults. We are proud members of the Assemblywoman's Public Safety Task Force. We recognize what she does in terms of bringing resources to the community to get ahead of the problem, and we stand with her in that effort. Our organization has met with 2 of the victims, including the victim's family, of this tragic incident, and applying trauma-informed care. What does that mean? Helping them heal, helping them move past this tragic, unfortunate event. I'm surrounded with my team members who've done it. The actual members that were with the family last week are actually in the hospital right now doing the work because the work doesn't stop. So we call on the governor, we call on elected officials to address these issues. The inequities of funding are a tragedy. If this was happening in any other community besides the Black community, we would have funding. If this was happening in any other community, it wouldn't be a choice between tax cuts and investments in workforce development, education, and community settings, right? This is a false choice. And so we stand by all the elected officials and the work that they do. We stand by the community members, and I call on all the community-based organizations here now, today, and tomorrow. Let's work together. Let's work collaboratively. Let's have some collective impact.
Can you state it and spell your full name, please?
My name is Ramik Williams, R-A-M-I-K, Williams, W-I-L-L-I-A-M-S.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we are going to move to our elected official. I know this is going a little bit long, but thank you so much. And thank you for our Public Safety Task Force. We'll have other community-based organizations, other community leaders to speak as well. So we are going to move to, I believe we have public advocate Jamani Williams. I just saw him, who used to be the former council member on these streets, occupying the corner, right? And the baby, Oh.
Outside.
Peace and blessing, love and light to everybody. So first, I think it was the Assemblyman mentioned about how many guns are in the country. We have 4% of the world's population. Over 50% of all civilian-owned guns are in this country. So we have a demonic obsession with guns. And until Congress actually does something about it, we're going to keep seeing these things. The space that I think we can work in is what I call the demand side of gun violence. So even if the guns are here, we can help our young people and communicate better than with permanent solutions for very temporary problems. How many people under 35? Hey, me. That's one. 35. Under 35? Right here. How many of y'all under 35 know somebody who was shot? Yes. How many over 40? 45. How many people know over 45 somebody who was shot when you were younger? The questions should not be the same answers for two different generations of people. Because the responses that I see now, I saw 20 years ago, and I was told that was supposed to solve it. So why are those answers the same? So we simply can't lock up the children of the people we locked up 20 years ago and think that's going to have a different response than happened already. I think the way we've crafted this, if you asked most New Yorkers if police have been defunded and we have less people in jail, they would say, yes, that's the cause of the gun violence. They'd be shocked to learn that no, police have not been defunded, and there are more people in Rikers Island now than there were pre-pandemic. And the shootings are still occurring. And they'd be probably shocked to find out that the communities that have the most violence already have the most arrests and the most incarceration.
Well said, well said.
So why are we not yet safe? 13 years ago, I was proud to have been elected city council member for parts of this area. I don't remember how many press conferences we've done along Church Avenue in this area. I had amazing staff, including two amazing leaders who helped me during that time. Both are now elected officials, Assemblymember Monique Waterman, who helped bring us together, and Councilmember Farrah Lewis, who are doing the same things I was doing 13 years ago. It is beyond frustrating that people are dying and nothing seems to be happening except the same old, same old, same old. There were 3 shootings around schools just this week, and I heard that police were sent. Understand there's an acute problem. Sometimes you need law enforcement. My question, what else was sent to those schools and those communities? Because obviously, you're doing a Band-Aid solution, and the best Band-Aids are drenched with blood if they're overused. And so our Band-Aid is drenched with blood for decades and decades of overuse. Period. Sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, it's trying to say something.
She already wants to be. Baby already wants to be on News 12.
We did a report about a year ago to show what we call the hot spots, the areas that had the most gun violence, and unfortunately this is one of the areas. There were also the areas that had the most COVID deaths. They had the most chronic absences in school. They had the most mental health calls. They had the least amount of affordable housing. Law enforcement cannot solve those problems.
Well said.
You keep painting as if everybody's anti-law enforcement. What we are saying is that we understand they have their role to play. They have been playing their role. Where is everybody else in their role?
Well said.
We are 13, 14, 16 months into an administration. Where is the plan of coordination in these communities to stop this violence? I'm tired of this violence. I want to see the plan now. Because we're going into the summer, and we wait until the summer to try to do something. We had a mass shooting in this area. We have to call it a mass shooting, because when people think of mass shootings, they usually think a lot of white Americans being killed. But there was a mass shooting, and our black lives are just as important.
Yes.
The word mass shooting comes with resources, it comes with attention. And we are trying to tell you that daily, black and brown bodies are dropping from gun violence. And the community cares. All of these folks are here because they care and because they're losing loved ones. And all they're asking for is for the resources and the coordinated plan to address it. That's not a lot to ask for. From leaders who said they would do something different to address this violence that has been occurring in these same communities for years, dealing with concurrent problems. That doesn't mean there's an excuse someone for shooting up a block. I want to be clear, there's no excuse for that. There has to be accountability for that pain that's occurring. But what we're telling you is don't mix and confuse accountability with preventing it from happening again.
Well said.
Because there's two different things. If you want to prevent it from happening again, change the environment that's creating it.
Right.
And we've been saying that for years, but we don't see the funding and the coordinated effort to actually get it done. So I know there's going to be another press conference very soon.
In the name of Jesus.
I wish. What are we going to do before the next one? That question is to us. That question is to every leader. That question is to an administration who is supposed to be focused on public safety. I want to see the plan now. It's going on April. June and July are going to be hotter than what it is right now. We're all here ready to work. Give us the plan, the coordination, most of all, the resources. Please, we are pleading. Because when my baby grows up, I want her to answer that question differently than what was just answered.
Next up to the mic, we're going to have our council member, Farrah Lewis, who also represents this district. Council member?
Thank you, Assembly Member Chandler Waterman, the AD 58 Task Force, Elite Learners God Squad, BTTM, Youth and Community Development Organization, and CAVI, and so many more of our pure violence operators that are out here with us this afternoon to respond to gun violence in our community. I'm Councilmember Farrah Lewis. I represent the 45th Council District. And this is what collective action looks like. The epidemic of gun violence is unacceptable and inhumane. Gun violence threatens our most fundamental human right, the right to life. Everything we are seeing on TV and experiencing, the guns, the violence, it's real. And it's more so real right here in the heart of East Flatbush. We must stop the cycle. No one should feel they are constantly looking over their shoulder to protect their lives. No one should feel that they are unsafe. No one should suffer from the lives of those taken far too soon. I'd like to take this opportunity to offer my prayers to the friends and family mourning the loss of Emmanuel Soray and those injured and impacted by the mass shooting that happened last Saturday. I feel like everything that needed to be said was said already, but I'll leave you all with this. I believe the way to safer streets and a safer community is not through these press conferences, and we've heard that many times. It's not through shooting responses. I think I've heard that before. And it's not through rallies. No one comes out for these things. I don't care how many marches you do. I don't care how many rallies you do. They're not listening. The way to effectively address this is by what our public advocate mentioned earlier and our state assembly member mentioned earlier, resources. The way to safer streets, in my opinion, is both resources and enforcement. What does that look like? I know I'm getting a lot of eyes behind my head right now because I said enforcement. It's not the enforcement that you're thinking of. I am calling on the state to enforce with issuing summonses to landlords that allow illegal social clubs and social gatherings in buildings like what happened on East 45th. That's the problem. The solution is enforcement. And we're not talking about NYPD. There are state agencies that could walk in and give a summons. And guess what? That landlord doesn't want to pay a summons and be impacted by wasting their money on an illegal social club that they know is in their building. And we know those illegal social clubs are in our neighborhood, and we say nothing. And then we have a mass shooting. I'm calling on the Department of Youth and Community Development. They are a friend to the city, but we're asking them to do us a favor. To spearhead a program that would train conflict mediators to work with our landlords, our cure violence organizations, and CUNY to provide the services we need right in our communities. We love our cure violence operators because they're with us on the street each and every day, right? But we need social workers to address the same issues that our public advocate mentioned earlier. This is inhumane when you think you're powerful enough to carry a gun and shoot somebody's child or shoot somebody's family member. It is inhumane, but mental health services are needed or wellness services are needed. But as I shared earlier, it's a resource and it won't get enforced if our federal government doesn't deal with getting the guns off the street and our state doesn't give the resources needed in order for us to stop the gun violence. The governor, not you. Right? And no shade to the governor, but you're about to pass a budget and East Flatbush needs the services. So therefore, prioritize us. Because when it's time for elections and you come to East Flatbush, and I have to say it, and I'll say it again and again and again, we're left out of these conversations. I know you're a nice woman, and I like you a lot. East Flatbush needs to be a priority. 11203, 11210, 11226 needs to be a priority in the next state budget. I'm not talking about big centers. I'm talking about resources and services right here. Because when I look at the God Squad, EFB, Elite Learners, CAVI, BTTM, so on and so forth, they're out here not spending time with their families and getting chunk change money and pennies to do the services that our federal and state government should be doing. And yeah, the city's out here too, Jamani out here too, right?
With the baby.
Right? Yeah. But you hold the purse. Yes. And we need those funds here. So as a community, we have to keep having press conferences if we don't have the resources. And I'm telling all of y'all right now, don't have another press conference. Wow. We have the resources. That's why when the public advocate said it, I was like, I rebuke it, but I know what's going to happen. However, we have too many groups here for us not to start the grassroots effort to address this issue. And let us be the model on what the state and the federal government should do. I'm different. I'm a problem solver. Reverend Shannon, you mentioned earlier, you don't like cameras, neither do I, because the work starts right here on the streets. Are y'all with me? Yes. We have resources. You guys are the resources, and we'll get more from the federal and the state and the city. The administration needs to be proactive too, but it starts with us. Let's create that model and make it effective and put it to work. Are y'all all with me? I look forward to working with our assembly member, the public advocate, our Congresswoman's office. Orlando is here. Let's have a meeting. Let's put it together and let's end. This is how we end gun violence. No more press conferences, more footwork. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to our council members. So what I heard, it's not an I thing, it's a we thing, right? So we need city, we need the federal, we need the state. Everybody got to work together to make this happen. So without further ado, we're going to, I want to shout out the District Attorney, Kings County, Eric Gonzalez's office is here, the reentry program, and they've been on these streets giving out job resources as well, so I just want to make sure. But we're going to have the gun czar, A.T. Mitchell from the New York City, Eric Adams, mayor's, A.T., yeah, yes, he is coming out here from the administration of the mayor.
What is it? It's good afternoon now.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. First and foremost, my condolences to the family, to the victims that survived, to their families, to the community that surrounds where the shooting took place. Because oftentimes we fail to remember that those gunshots were rang throughout this entire area, and every business owner has been impacted by that. Yeah. I'm glad to be standing alongside this coalition of partners, of comrades, of colleagues of mine that I have had now for some while. And I've listened to all of the different people who spoke, and I think that's enough has been said. So I'm not going to even, use a lot of time. Let me just reiterate certain key points. Mass shootings require mass resources.
Yes.
Mass shootings require mass resources. That was very key. And then I love what Councilmember Lewis said. I often say the resource that we are calling upon is the resource you see in the mirror every single day. See, oftentimes we look outside of ourselves, but the resource that we need to solve these issues in our neighborhood are the persons you look in the mirror every single day and smile at. It's the human resource. And so we need to start the human resource department as every other place of business has. We need to get along. We need to actually practice what we preach. And I'm talking to my comrades here because I've been tasked with a very hard job. And that's to bring all of us together. I think I have the respect of everybody here. And I've been tasked to try to bring us all together. And we know that we got some sugar honey iced tea things to deal with. But we're not going to do that in front of here. So I share with those other sentiments about let's get together offline. The plans that we are looking for are the plans that we are going to make ourselves. And then we're going to turn these things over. And then we're going to see that these things are implemented. Because as been said, every year, every odd year, every even year, there's an election. And so some folks are going to come back around and they're going to ask you for your support. And we should not catch amnesia. And we should not want to be in the photo op during those times when you know in between the shootings that we're still suffering and they can do a lot more. So I'm looking forward to the offline conversations. Thank you for having me present. Keep up the great work, everybody.
Thank you so much. And now we're going to have, for the borough president of Antonio Reynoso's office, we're going to have, I call her Smiley, Leanne Pearson is going to speak. Come on, Smiley.
There's a reason for that, Smiley. I bring you greetings from Antonio Reynoso, our Brooklyn Borough President. I am Leanna Pearson, and I am his Director of Community Affairs. Much has been said today, and we too understand the pain of this mass shooting, gun violence, and we're standing with the East Flatbush community at the loss of Emmanuel Saray. So much has been said, so much that we concur with, but what is important, and I believe the borough president would also concur with the public advocate, that this is not about just the police, right? As A.T. Williams also just said, it is about us and us doing the work, right? So the police can't do this work on their own. It takes everyone in our communities doing the work. It's our teachers, it's our business owners, it's our elected officials to finally put an end to senseless violence and death, to change to what Hines said earlier. It is an all hands on deck approach that is needed. It will require mental health. It will require the state and federal government to stop the flow of guns onto our streets. It will require our schools having more teachers, more guidance counselors, and more after-school activities. It will require higher paying jobs. It will require dignified housing for all. It will require the essential services like SNAP and 3K to remain in place. So we appreciate you, Assemblywoman Monique Chandler Waterman, for gathering us all here today. Thank you to the Assembly District 58 Public Safety Task Force, God Squad, CAVI, Brownsville Think Tank Matters, East Flatbush Village, and everyone else who is working to make sure that our community is safer. Remember, it begins with us, and we must continue to do the work that will help to prevent these mass shootings in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I also want to recognize a lot of community leaders we have here with us today. I guess Rudy Daly could have 2 seconds after he don't know how to do that. And I would say he also was a mentor. We ain't gonna tell his age, but we both taught at my 11 Junior High School together and attended that school as well. So we have Rabbi Bob Kaplan, right? We have our from JCI, okay. And then we also, JCRC, we also have Pastor Terry Lee with IRTC here. We have a rep from Congresswoman Clark's office, Orlando's here. Mike Tucker, he's also here, Lay the Guns Down Foundation. And of course we have Elite Learners, Kamara Jackson is also here supporting. I want to say after this, remember, we're doing a community response. What does that look like? Community shooting response. We're going around with resources and to the houses and to people over here. So this way that they can make sure that they know where their mental health services that they can get right now. There's a number called 988 for a mental health crisis and other resources. So I'm going to have really quick Rudy Daly to say a couple of words.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my name is, like Assemblymember Waterman said, my name is Roger Daly, Rudy. I'm the chair of Community Board 17 in this district where the mass shooting happened. I have with me our district manager, Sharif Fraser. I think our public safety chair was also here. I want to, there are things that I talk about recently, and I talk about a pie, right? So a pie has many parts. One of the parts that have been spoken about so far is the resources that need to come back. We have a mass shooting. I like what Pastor Hines says when he says a gundemic in our community. I love that. Never heard of that expression, but I love it. But I want to talk about one part of the pie, which is us. We need to start recognizing the violence that is happening within our own communities, that is happening amongst us. We are the ones committing the crimes. And we have to address that with each other. We can't pretend in our households when we see guns, when we see violent acts, that we ignore it. We use 988. We call for mental health if there's struggles going on in our own household. Talk about that part of the pie as well. So we do call on the state to say provide resources, help for parents, for relatives who are struggling. Sometimes they're scared. How do you address this? How do you address these issues? So we at Community Board 17, we have the people in the community are not just looking at out there. We also have to look at in here. And what are we doing to ensure that the violence stop happening within our own communities? So the after-school programs will help. That's part of the pie. Good schools will help. That's part of the pie. Social services will help. That's part of the pie. But we are an important part of the pie that would help our community get better. And if you need anything, please do reach out to our community board, because we're there. Our district manager, our state office, our city office that spoke earlier, we're all there to help you, to provide resources. So I thank each and every one of you, and I thank the assembly member for giving us the opportunity so we don't have more press conference. I mean, 13 years ago, I had a press conference where we had 3 people killed at Remsen Avenue. Mass shooting. We're tired of it, right? And we had another shoot over a line. We had a shooting there 2 days ago over somebody arguing who's first in line. We have to stop, and that's us. Okay? So that's, there's so much more, but I know we have to run out of time. So my 11, together, we know, please people, support yourselves, love yourself, stop the violence.
And as everybody keep on saying, we don't want to do press conferences, but today we are highlighting. We gotta make some noise and we gotta do the work. So right now we're gonna have elite learners come up, Kamara Jackson, to please come and talk on behalf of your organization.
Thank you.
Let's go.
Good afternoon, East Flatbush.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, East Flatbush.
Good afternoon.
My name is Kamara Jackson, and I'm the founder and executive director of an organization